Up to the sky, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Zay, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or SCU.
This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Word.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the best podcast you never heard of. My name's Tom. I am your host. Today is Sunday, February the 7th, 2021. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and subscribing on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Head over to our website, which is catchhookshoot.wixsite.com/catchhookshoot to find the podcast, videos, interviews, merchandise, pretty much anything you're looking for. Make sure you're following on social media on all platforms. You can find the show at Catch Hook Shoot. Head to patreon.com/catchhookshoot for bonus content, prowrestlingtees.com/catchhookshoot for t-shirts, and check out our other web store at catchhookshoot.bigcartel.com. You can find all that and more at our Linktree, which is linktree/catchhookshoot, or if you're watching on YouTube, just scan this little QR code right here in the corner of your screen, and you'll get links to everything that is Catch Hook Shoot. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. Again, this week we're starting off on a sad note. The wrestling world suffered its first loss of 2021 with the passing of Hacksaw Butch Reed earlier this week. Known to WWE audiences as the Natural Butch Reed. He wrestled in Mid-South, and WWE WCW as one half of the tag team Doom with Ron Simmons, and just really one of the all-time greats that I think doesn't get a lot of attention. I'm not going to say he's underrated, but I think he is overlooked a little bit in the conversation of some of the all-time greats in the wrestling business. So rest in peace to Hacksaw Butch Reed. So let's get right into everything that's going on in the world of pro wrestling this week, starting it all off like we always do with the match of the week. So this week's match of the week comes from NXT on this past Wednesday, and it was a match from the Dusty Classic, Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher versus Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. This was just an awesome tag team match from start to finish. You know, with these four guys, right now, arguably, possibly the top four in-ring competitors in NXT. There's definitely an argument to be made there. But, just a great tag team match. Ciampa and Thatcher were victorious, so they're moving on in the Dusty Cup. So if you have not seen this match, definitely go back and check it out. Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher versus Adam Cole and Roderick Strong from NXT this past Wednesday. Just a fantastic tag team match. So let's move into our next segment here, which is my top 3 highlights of the week, and that is the 3 count. First up on the 3 count this week, Edge wins the Men's Royal Rumble match and is going to the main event of Wrestlemania. A little bit of a surprise. I predicted Daniel Bryan as the winner just based on how they were building towards the match. Edge coming back from his tricep injury, entered at number 1 and went all the way through. Lasted 58 minutes and 30 seconds roughly. So, congratulations to Edge. Coming back and winning the Rumble, like I said, getting the main event spot at WrestleMania. Number 2 on the 3 count this week, Alexa Bliss, who's been spending a lot of time on the 3 count. But, I've said it over and over again, and I will keep saying it. Alexa is my favorite part of Monday Night Raw right now. And, she had a match with Nikki Cross. And again, some of the tricks and stuff that we've seen from her over the past several weeks, transforming in the middle of the match and that kind of thing. And she did pick up the victory there, and then kind of having not really a confrontation with Randy Orton, but just like passing him on the ramp, staring him down a little bit. Orton not even looking at her as he was on his way to the ring. And then during the main event, which was Edge versus Orton. Alexa Bliss just kind of appearing, sitting on the ring post, and some type of black something dripping from her mouth, and then just as quickly disappearing. And Orton ended up losing that match to Edge, which I'm guessing was kind of the finale to their rivalry. Because as we talked about a minute ago, Edge moving on to the main event of WrestleMania, and Orton apparently continuing his feud with Alexa and The Fiend. And number 3 on the 3 count, Kenta, making an appearance on AEW Dynamite. So it would appear that forbidden door between New Japan and AEW is open, at least a crack, because we had Kenta show up right at the end of Dynamite and attack Jon Moxley. Kenta, of course, is the number 1 contender for the IWGP United States Championship, which is currently held by Moxley, and they will be having that match for the United States title later on this month at a New Japan show. So it looks like there's some type of working relationship between New Japan and AEW. I don't know how far that relationship goes. Is this just a one-time thing? But Kenta will be on Dynamite again this week, teaming with Kenny Omega, going up against Moxley and I believe Archer. I think that's who Mox's partner is going to be. I didn't write it down. So, New Japan and AEW. So lots of possibilities there if this is the same type of relationship that AEW has with Impact. So we'll have to see where this is going to go. But yeah, Kenta showing up on AEW Dynamite this week, and I'm definitely here for it. So let's get into some more results from the Royal Rumble last weekend. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler regained the women's tag team titles from Charlotte Flair and Asuka, of course with some interference from Lacey Evans and Ric Flair, which is pretty much how I thought that one was going to go. Drew McIntyre retained the WWE Championship against Bill Goldberg. Very short match, maybe like 5 minutes, if that. But I know, nobody really was real enthused about Goldberg coming back, and definitely was not enthused about him possibly winning the championship. So, Drew McIntyre did retain. Sasha Banks retained her women's championship against Carmella. Roman Reigns retained the Universal Championship against Kevin Owens in a really good last man standing match. Some really cool spots in this one. And there was some people complaining because there was a golf cart spot where, Roman Reigns basically ran over Kevin Owens. And, people say, oh, they're ripping off AEW, which is complete bullshit, honestly. People have been getting run over by some type of vehicle for decades in pro wrestling, going all the way back to the territory days. So it's not anything new. It wasn't new when AEW did it. I loved it when AEW did it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking them. They used it as a semi-comedic spot, whereas WWE, a little bit more serious, the context of it. But point is, people have been getting run over by stuff in wrestling forever. So nobody's ripping off anybody. It's been done a million times. And, it's all about how it's done and why it's done as to whether or not it works well. And I think this particular one worked well. As far as the Rumble matches, we already talked about Edge winning the men's Rumble, and Bianca Belair was your winner of the women's Royal Rumble, so she will be moving on to WrestleMania for a championship match as well. I said it last week on the Rumble show. Bianca was my pick to win, and I'm really hoping she's going to be challenging Sasha Banks, because that's a match that I want to see. And a few surprises in the men's Rumble match. We had Carlito make his return to WWE. I wouldn't necessarily call that a surprise. People have been talking about that for quite a while. Seth Rollins made his return, which I think was somewhat expected by some people. But for me, the big surprise in the men's Rumble was Christian making his return. And apparently that was a surprise to everybody. Like, only a handful of people knew he was going to be in the match. And one of the people who seemed to be very surprised and very happy about it was Edge. He was in the ring at the time, and Christian came out at number 24, and you could just see the emotion on Edge's face. How happy he was for Christian to be getting back in the ring. So that was just a very, very cool moment with Edge and Christian in the Rumble. So let's move on to what's been going on in pro wrestling this week, starting with Monday Night Raw. We started off with a promo from Drew McIntyre, who, was talking about Edge. Edge came out to the ring, and Drew, giving Edge all kinds of praise about making his comeback and things like that. And Edge seemed almost insulted by it, like Drew wasn't taking him seriously, didn't see him as a viable threat to the WWE Championship. But Edge did not come out and make his decision as to who he's going to be facing yet. And at the end of all this, we finally saw Sheamus turn on Drew McIntyre and hit him with a brogue kick. So it looks like we're going to be getting Sheamus and McIntyre for the WWE title. Now, I hope they drag this one out till WrestleMania, because that's a WrestleMania match I want to see, is Sheamus versus McIntyre. I'm sure we're going to see it at the Elimination Chamber, most likely. But, I hope the rivalry continues into WrestleMania, and that ends up being like the blow-off match for that one, or, something like that. But I want to see Sheamus and Drew at WrestleMania. Matt Riddle defeated Bobby Lashley by disqualification. Lashley just beat the living hell out of Matt Riddle before, during, and after the match. So much so that, they showed Riddle and the trainers and everything trying to help him up and help him to the back, and Riddle just confused, didn't know where he was. So so Lashley just decimating Matt Riddle. So I'm sure we haven't seen the last of that one. We'll probably see another United States title match between Riddle and Lashley sometime soon. Randy Orton cut a promo on Edge, talking about Edge made a liar out of him by coming back, because Orton had said, he'd never be back in the WWE. So that led to the main event match that I talked about a little earlier, where Alexa made her appearance. And I already talked about the Alexa versus Nikki Cross match. And Edge did get the victory over Orton in the main event of the show. So moving on to some AEW Dark stuff. Nick Comoroto teamed up with Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, and Nick Comoroto is one I think AEW is going to start building him up, and possibly have him up on Dynamite a little more often. The guy, I'm very impressed with the guy. If you have not seen him, he's becoming like a mainstay on Dark, so definitely head to YouTube, check out AEW Dark. Even if you don't watch the whole show, just check out this Nick Comoroto, because I am impressed with this guy. He is somebody who could be a big time player in AEW, so I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on him. So moving on to some Impact news for the week. Havoc picked up a win over Tasha Steelz, so they're continuing with this rivalry with Havoc and Nevaeh versus Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan for the Knockouts tag team titles. Found out Ken Shamrock is suspended indefinitely for attacking Impact officials the previous week. Sami Callihan, of course, not too happy about that. Saw a backstage segment with the Good Brothers and Beer Guns, which is James Storm and Chris Sabin. And they are going to be having a match next week for the Impact Tag Team titles. So that should be a pretty good match with those two teams. I can't wait to see that one. Josh Alexander got a win over Madman Fulton, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. But it looks like, since Ethan Page is no longer in Impact, it looks like Josh Alexander might be getting a little bit of a singles push. So we'll have to see if that keeps going. But a pleasant surprise, I should say. Josh Alexander defeating Madman Fulton. Brian Myers cut an in-ring promo about on Eddie Edwards, and Edwards came out and just jumped all over Brian Myers, and we saw Hernandez come out and make the save for Brian Myers and start putting a beating on Eddie Edwards, and that brought out Matt Cardona to make the save. So interesting pairing going on there. So it's looking like we're going to see Cardona and Myers on opposite sides here. So I'm keeping an eye on this one, because I think this is going to get interesting. Larry D got a win over Crazy Steve, and looked like Triple XL was going to kind of put a beating on Crazy Steve after the match, until Rosemary got in the ring and kind of scared them away. It was kind of a cool little spot. Trey Miguel had an interview talking about why he chose to return to Impact and things like that, and basically wanting to prove himself as a singles guy. Made mention of, throughout his entire career, he had 2 crutches, obviously talking about Dez and Wentz from the Rascals. Sami Callihan interrupted this interview, so that looks like it's going to be Trey's next rivalry is going to be with Sami Callihan, so that should make for some very good matches with those 2 guys. Then we had an interview with Triple XL in the back and found out they are going to be teaming up with Tennille Dashwood to take on Crazy Steve, Rosemary, and somebody else. We don't know who their third partner is going to be, so that that should be interesting. Jordan Grace picked up a win over Susan, formerly known as Susie or Sue Young, and was attacked by Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber Lee after the match, and the save was made by none other than ODB, making her return to Impact. And then we had another paid ad from AEW, and these I think are just entertaining as hell. They're fun little spots. People complain about them. It's like, stop taking it so seriously. Take it for what it is. It's tongue in cheek. It's meant to be entertaining. It's meant to be funny. It's meant to be like eye rolling and that kind of thing. So take it for what it is and just sit back and enjoy it. Rohit Raju picked up a win over TJP with some help from a returning Mahabali Shera. So I would say if it's going to continue that way, Rohit is probably going to be getting the X Division title back sooner rather than later. We had a promo from Violent by Design. It's Eric Young's group, and they are still trying to get Cousin Jake to join their faction, and I guess Jake is going to be giving his answer next week. And in the main event of the show, Moose and Chris Bay got the win over Tommy Dreamer and Rich Swann. Moving into AEW Dynamite, Chris Jericho was the winner of the Tag Team Battle Royal. So he and MJF, his tag team partner, have earned a title match against the Young Bucks at AEW Revolution coming up next month. We saw another promo from Sting and Darby Allin, which of course was interrupted by Team Taz. This just building more towards the street fight between Sting and Darby against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Next week, Darby Allin's going to be defending the TNT Championship against Joey Janela. That should be an interesting match. Now, they haven't said it's a hardcore match or anything like that. Wouldn't surprise me if that stipulation is added at some point, or maybe not. It might just be a straight up one-on-one match between Darby and Joey. Either way, I'm looking forward to that one. We don't see Janela on Dynamite a whole lot anymore. And I know that's because he's doing a lot of work with GCW and Independence. That's kind of his bread and butter. But it'll be good to see Joey back on Dynamite. Britt Baker got the win over Thunder Rosa, of course, with a little bit of chicanery involved. So I'm sure we have not seen the last of that one. Matt Hardy and Hangman Page picked up the win over Chaos Project, and this was. It's Matt Hardy's still trying to entice Hangman Page to join his stable, so we'll see where that one goes. Found out the women's eliminator tournament for the number one contendership for the AEW Women's World Title is going to be taking place both in the U.S. and in Japan. So there will be some, and that's why the bracket is split, U.S. and Japan. It's not necessarily American wrestlers and Japanese wrestlers. It just means half the matches are going to happen in the U.S., half are going to happen in Japan. I would assume the finals are going to happen at Revolution next month. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so that's the women's eliminator tournament. And the wedding of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford happened this past week, and as with all wrestling weddings, things went downhill very quickly. Orange Cassidy was hiding in the cake. We saw both Kip and Miro take a little bit of a beating. Miro was actually handcuffed to the ropes by Chuck Taylor. So and that's when Kip Sabian kind of got beaten down a little bit. So yeah, it was your standard wrestling wedding. Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill are going to be taking on Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet on the March 3rd episode of Impact of Dynamite, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't put this on the pay-per-view, but I don't think that's a bad thing that it's not on the pay-per-view, because I don't know. I'm just not sure about Shaq as a wrestler. I know he's been in like the men's battle royal at WrestleMania and that kind of stuff. I know he's made appearances here and there between like WCW and WWE and that kind of thing. But yeah, probably a good thing that this match is not on the pay-per-view. I mean, fans are complaining about it enough as it is. To put it in a featured spot on a pay-per-view, it would just make things 10 times worse in that area. Lance Archer defeated Eddie Kingston in a lumberjack match, which was just really a bit of a cluster. The lumberjacks were all over the place, and there was fights going on all around the ring. So, but yeah, in the end, Lance Archer did pick up the victory there. And in a backstage segment with FTR talking about Jurassic Express, we saw that they have Marco Stunt, have him tied to a chair and have his mouth duct taped. So not sure where this is going, but it can't be good for Marco. And Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers got the win over Jon Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix. And at the end of it all, Lance Archer ended up coming out making the save as Omega and the Good Brothers were putting a beating on Jon Moxley, and that's where we saw Kenta make his appearance and just basically knock Moxley out and stand over him. So this is again leading to that tag team match coming up this week on AEW Dynamite. So let's move on to NXT. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez defeated Kacy Catanzaro and Kaden Carter to move on to the finals of the Women's Dusty Cup. We found out that at TakeOver, Io Shirai is going to be defending the NXT Women's Championship in a triple threat match against Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm. That should be a very, very good match, and that TakeOver is taking place next weekend on Valentine's Day. So it should be, I'm looking forward to that one. Austin Theory got a win over Leon Ruff and then was attacked by Dexter Lumis. I'm not sure what's going on with Dexter Lumis. Who is his real target? Is his target Theory, or is he ultimately going after Johnny Gargano? That's not 100% clear, but it seems like it's Austin Theory. That's what I'm thinking. Why, I don't know. I don't think Lumis really cares about reasons. He just kind of goes after people, which I think is kind of a cool gimmick. Legado del Fantasma defeated Lucha House Party to move on to the semifinals of the Dusty Cup. And we had another promo between Pete Dunne and Finn Balor, and they are going to be having a title match at TakeOver for the NXT Championship. I cannot wait for that one. That is an early contender for match of the week. Pete Dunne versus Finn Balor. That is going to be a fantastic match. We actually saw Edge make an appearance for the very first time on NXT, and this was during the Pete Dunne and Finn Balor promo. Of course, as the winner of the Royal Rumble, Edge can challenge for any championship that he wants. So, kind of throwing out there that, hey, I could be coming after the NXT title too, which I think would be a nice twist on it, because I think Edge versus Balor or Edge versus Dunne, either one would be a great match. And according to the online rumors, WWE officials want Finn Balor in WrestleMania. So I would assume from that he's going to retain the title against Pete Dunne. But I'm not thinking Edge is going to be challenging for the NXT title. I think it's more likely that we're going to see Finn Balor and Karrion Kross at WrestleMania. That's just my prediction. That's my armchair booking there. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. Also at TakeOver, Johnny Gargano is going to be defending the North American Championship against Kushida. So that should be, again, a great match. I'm pretty sure we're going to see the finals of both Dusty Cups at TakeOver as well. So that would probably make up the entire TakeOver show. The Dusty Cup finals, those two matches, Gargano versus Kushida, Dunne versus Balor, and the triple threat women's match. So I would assume that's probably your lineup for TakeOver. Jesse Kamea and Toni Storm went to a no contest due to interference from Mercedes Martinez. Io Shirai just kind of came out to observe the carnage and then put her own stamp on it and was standing tall at the end of that one. Santos Escobar successfully defended the Cruiserweight Championship against Kurt Stallion, and Scarlett and Karrion Kross made an appearance during this match. Not sure what the deal is between Kross and Santos Escobar. It was implied that it was Scarlett who left the tarot card in Escobar's dressing room last week. But I mean, Kross is definitely not a cruiserweight, so he's not going after the title. So I'm not sure what the beef is here. That wasn't real clear. But Scarlett was out there watching during the match, and then after the match, Kross came out and kind of got in Escobar's face a little bit. So I have to see where this one's going. Then we had a confrontation outside the arena again with Karrion Kross, and this time with Edge. So that was an interesting stare down between those two. So if that match is coming sometime in the future, I'm here for it. I want to see that. And I already talked about Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher getting the win over Adam Cole and Roderick Strong, advancing to the semifinals of the Dusty Cup. So moving on to some MLW news here. Jordan Oliver defeated a member of the Sentai Death Squad from Contra Unit. And I saw an interesting promo from Selena De La Renta talking about her, formerly her company, now owned by Azteca Underground, whatever that is, but Promociones Dorado will be investing in the IWA, which is the wrestling organization out of Puerto Rico that Savio Vega is a part of. So it looks like Selena and Savio are going to be having some type of rivalry coming up here, and with the wrestlers that are under Selena De La Renta's management, that can make for some interesting matches. Savio Vega versus Mil Muertes, Savio Vega versus LA Park, or any of the Parks. So definitely keep an eye on that one. Let's see what else here. Speaking of Los Parks, they did retain the tag team championships against TJP and Boku Dao, and it looked like we got a little bit of a heel turn from TJP. Kind of turned his back and walked out on his partner after they lost the match, just looking very frustrated. Lio Rush and Laredo Kid will be having a title versus title match this coming week on MLW Fusion. So that'll be Lio Rush's MLW Middleweight Championship versus Laredo Kid's AAA Cruiserweight Championship. So it looks and that looks to be just a ridiculous match between these two guys. So I can't wait to see that one. And Gino Medina defeated Gringo Loco. Kind of an interesting match there. Haven't seen Gringo Loco on MLW in quite a while, and it was a good match, but it just seemed like it was just kind of thrown in there. No real story behind it. It was just a match, but it was a damn good match. And Mads Kruger was supposed to be having a match with Alexander Hammerstone. Kind of, I forget what they called it, but basically like a parking lot brawl or something like that. It looked like they were on a construction site or something. But he had like a look-alike wearing the same kind of mask, did Mads Kruger. And while Hammerstone was distracted with him, Kruger attacked from behind and just laid Hammerstone out. And that's pretty much how the show ended. So moving into some Ring of Honor news, Jonathan Gresham retained the Pure Championship against Joe Keys in a very good Pure Rules match. Brian Johnson defeated Danhausen in a YouTube exclusive match. And this rivalry's been going on for a little while. Brian Johnson was kind of the guy who did not want Danhausen to get his Ring of Honor contract, and Danhausen, had to defeat Brian Johnson to get his contract, which he did at the last pay-per-view. So this looks like this rivalry is going to continue. OGK, the OG Kingdom, as it were, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett got a win over the Bouncers, and at the end of the match we saw Vincent and Bateman on the stage kind of getting into Beer City Bruiser's head a little bit, talking about how Taven and Bennett kind of just overlooking them or stuff like that, and which caused Beer City Bruiser to attack Taven and Bennett and just mauled both of them, left them laying. That was the end of the show for Ring of Honor this week. Moving into NXT UK, Nina Samuels defeated Zaya Brookside with the old-fashioned loaded purse. Cracked her over the head with a yeah, just a handbag. I haven't really seen anything like that since like Missy Hyatt and Sensational Sherry. So it's kind of a cool little throwback thing in that match. Ilya Dragunov got a win over Tyson T-Bone and was just being antagonized by Sam Gradwell basically the whole match. And so Dragunov, kind of went nuts after the match and just went after Gradwell. So I'm sure this is a match we're going to see coming up very, very soon. Joe Coffey got a win in basically a squash match and then cut a promo on Rampage Brown. So that's another one I'm sure we're going to see coming up. And Jordan Devlin surprisingly got a win over Dave Mastiff. If you're not familiar with NXT UK, you don't know who these two guys are, go back and check this match out, because Dave Mastiff, at least twice the size of Jordan Devlin. Jordan Devlin is the NXT UK Cruiserweight Champion, and he does an open challenge every week, and Dave Mastiff came out to answer the challenge this time, obviously not for the title, but Devlin able to pick up the win over Mastiff in what ended up being a really, really good match. So let's move on to Friday Night SmackDown. Of course, the show opened with Roman Reigns in the ring talking about Edge and basically complaining, why has Edge, he's gone to see all the other champions and he's making me wait and this kind of thing. That part of the promo to me was a little dumb, for lack of a better word. I mean, Roman's the Universal Champion. The Universal Championship is on SmackDown. SmackDown is on Friday nights. So, was Edge supposed to take the week off and not go to Raw or NXT and hit SmackDown first and then hit Raw and NXT next week? I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't, it makes, to me, this is my opinion, it makes Roman look a little dumb. I can't think of a better word for it than that. And so basically Roman's saying he wants Edge's decision by the end of the night. In the first match on SmackDown, Dominic Mysterio finally got a win over Baron Corbin with a little bit of help from his dad, from Rey Mysterio, but hey, who's looking? Cesaro got a win over Daniel Bryan in another just amazing wrestling match between these two guys. We saw Nakamura watching on the monitor in the back. Nakamura, of course, former tag team partners, I guess, with Cesaro. And at the end of the match, we saw Cesaro with a show of respect for Daniel Bryan, giving the fist bump to him. So looks like Cesaro could be making a little bit of a babyface turn as well, just like Nakamura has been the last several weeks. Now, by all accounts, that spot that Nakamura is in with his face turn and everything was originally intended for Cesaro, but as has been reported online a lot this week, Cesaro's contract had been coming up shortly after WrestleMania. His contract would have expired, but according to the reports online, he has re-signed just this past week, so it looks like they're going to still put him in that spot for that face turn. Hopefully they keep it going with Nakamura too, because I mean, it can definitely work for both of them. So hopefully they don't flip Nakamura back. That would just be kind of weird. But so yeah, it looks like we're getting a face turn from Cesaro. We saw a vignette letting us know that Seth Rollins will be returning to SmackDown next week, so we'll have to see who he's going to be going after leading into WrestleMania. Bayley got the win over Ruby Riott. We had a promo from Bianca Belair talking about her her Royal Rumble victory and who she's going to be facing at WrestleMania. And she was, of course, interrupted by Reginald and Carmella. And then Sasha Banks made her appearance. And, Reginald just kind of kept running his mouth and getting under Bianca's skin until she basically beat the hell out of him with her braid, which I thought was hilarious. It was great. Rude and Ziggler got a win over Chad Gable and Otis. Street Profits were on commentary for this one, and it was great. The commentary was great. Very good tag team match. Gable, I'm still not a fan of the cut and paste tag teams that WWE likes to do, like Gable and Otis. I mean, Otis was part of an established tag team, and they split him up just to put him in another tag team. Same thing with Chad Gable. Was part of American Alpha with Jason Jordan. They split them up just to throw both of them in other tag teams with just at random. So I don't understand the thinking behind WWE's tag team booking, but it is what it is. Big E retained the Intercontinental Championship in a triple threat match against Apollo Crews and Sami Zayn. Again, another really good match with these three guys. And Edge came out to cut his promo, was interrupted by Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. And Roman, same thing, demanding Edge's decision, demanding Edge to acknowledge him as the head of the table and that kind of thing. And from seemingly out of nowhere, Kevin Owens jumps in the ring and stuns Roman Reigns and just walks out without a word. So that was how SmackDown ended. I thought it was pretty cool. So they're obviously still kind of keeping with the Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns storyline. I don't know if that will lead to yet another match with them prior to WrestleMania. But for my money, I'm pretty sure the WrestleMania main event is going to be Roman Reigns and Edge. That's my prediction for the men's championship match that Edge is gonna choose. So let's get into some 205 Live news. Tony Nese and Arya Daivari got a win over Sunil Singh from the Bollywood Boys, teaming with Matt Martell from Everrise. Interesting pairing on that end. Not sure why they did it that way, but Nese and Daivari were victorious in that one. August Gray got a win over Jake Atlas. Little bit of a surprise. I would have expected Atlas to get the win in that particular match. And then Nese and Daivari again making another appearance, coming out and attacking both men. So 205 Live, if you're not familiar with it, if you don't keep up with it, I would definitely suggest at least checking it out. There's some great wrestling going on from some guys you don't see on other WWE shows. Tony Nese, fantastic wrestler, and I could say the same thing for anybody on 205 Live. Really, all these guys are really good, but they're not on Raw or SmackDown or NXT. So check it out and see some guys that you don't see elsewhere in WWE. Some little bit of New Japan news. Tanahashi defeated Takagi for the never open weight title, and as I was talking about earlier, Kenta and Mox are going to be having their United States Championship match on February the 26th. Jay White has returned to New Japan, so he is, after all the speculation about him possibly going somewhere else, it looks like he is staying in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And New Japan announced this week that they are returning to US TV on February 11th on the Roku channel. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Roku channel doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a Roku box. There's an app. You can download it on Amazon Fire TV, or just go on the website. So February 11th, New Japan back on US TV. Can't wait. I love New Japan. Happy to be able to see it on TV again, so I'll definitely be keeping up with that. So that's just another hour of wrestling I get to watch every week, so that's never a bad thing. Let's see some little bit of some miscellaneous news going on this week. I talked about Cesaro's contract was going to be coming up in April, but he has re-signed. John Cena made not really an announcement, but just kind of stated that he won't be at WrestleMania due to his filming schedule, and this was kind of challenged by Corey Graves on his podcast, saying that he can't see Cena missing WrestleMania. So I'm wondering if we're going to have some kind of surprise appearance by John Cena at WrestleMania this year, especially with the fans coming back somewhat, in a limited capacity. Lars Sullivan apparently was released by WWE back in January. After no showing at TV, and just amongst his many other issues, his anxiety issues and some controversial stuff that was going on with him that we won't get into. But Lars Sullivan has been released, as well as Steve Cutler from the Forgotten Sons, or more recently with King Corbin. Apparently, WWE officials, Vince McMahon specifically, not happy with him attending the Impact New Year's Eve party with his girlfriend Deonna Purrazzo, and then shortly thereafter being diagnosed with COVID. So he was released. And talked about officials wanting Finn Balor at WrestleMania. It was also reported that Karrion Kross is on the fast track to the main roster, which again is why I said, I think we are probably going to get Balor versus Kross at WrestleMania, which I think would just be a great match. Parker Boudreaux University of Central Florida football player, has apparently signed with WWE. I haven't seen confirmation of this from WWE, but it's been reported by several outlets online. And this is a guy that's called the next Brock Lesnar, or a Brock Lesnar lookalike. And he young, I want to say 21, 22-year-old kid. The guy is huge. Does share some similarities with Brock Lesnar as far as his, I guess his size, his haircut, I guess, if you want to go there. But, hopefully they don't promote him like that in WWE. Hopefully they give him his own thing, to distinguish him from Brock, and don't just, make him Brock Lesnar 2.0, because I'm sorry, that would be doomed from the get-go. And some interesting news. We talked about the passing of Butch Reed earlier. Apparently Butch Reed was a big fan of Will Hobbs from AEW, so much so that he had referred to his family as the new Hacksaw, which is high praise coming from Butch Reed. And so I'm wondering if kind of as a tribute to Butch Reed, will we be seeing Hacksaw Hobbs in AEW in the near future? He's already called Powerhouse Hobbs, so I don't know if they're going to be changing up his name like that. It just that kind of harkens back to the Viking Raiders fiasco in WWE. But yeah, I think Hacksaw Hobbs has a nice ring to it, so we'll see if anything comes of that. If not, it's Powerhouse Hobbs, that's fine too. I thought that was an interesting little fact there. And R-Truth has lost and regained the 24/7 championship yet again. This time it was to former NFL quarterback Doug Flutie, which I thought was just kind of cool. It was during a flag football game as part of Super Bowl weekend. So, but yeah, he did win it back. So, hey, it's 24/7 title. Have fun with it. So many people complain about it online that it's ridiculous. Just enjoy it for what it is, guys. It's wrestling. Stop taking it so seriously. So that's going to do it for news and rumors and all that kind of fun stuff for the week. So right now I'm going to throw it over to Charlie G, and he is here with your Indie Cut.
Thank you, Tom, and hey, the wrestling friends. I am Charlie G with your Indie Cut, or in this case, the GCW Fight for Recap show. So let's begin with the Wind of God from January 29th. And we started off with Blake Christian versus Leo Rush in a Blackpool 2 out of 3 falls match. First fall was a regular one, with Leo winning that with a frog splash. Second was a doors match where Christian flipped Leo through the red door, technically. Third was a casket match where Leo frog splash Blake through a ladder, and then finally beat him with a sleeper, dragging him into the casket. This is only the start of Blake Christian's long 24 hours. Second match was Spider Nate Webb versus the One Call Manders. This was a hard-hitting and door spots galore match, with the One Call Manders defeating Nate with a huge lariat for the win. Even though Manders almost crushed his skull on the stage. So hopefully he's alright. Third match was Braden Lee versus Myron Reed. And final match, Myron Reed defeated Braden Lee. I forgot how he won it. I don't even know how it is in the notes, so I must have missed it. Fourth match was KTB versus Matthew Justice in a hard-hitting match, with Matthew Justice winning this. Main event of the show was Joey Janela versus Treehouse Lee. Pretty decent match. Joey defeated Treehouse Lee with at the end of the match, it went through a door, package power driver, super kick. It still was enough till putting Treetop in a deep Boston Crab for the win. Nice beginning of the 24 hours, only to have an hour power outage. So Florida Culture was an hour late. The tag team match was Eel O'Neill and Jordan Blake defeating Cameron Jackson and Mike Outlaw. Next up was Calvin Tankman defeating PB Smooth in a good match, with Calvin winning with his indestructible driver. Next up was The Rep, Dave McCall and Nate Carter defeating Faye Jackson and Willow Nightingale, using a pop-up flatliner on Faye for the win. Next up was AJ Gray defeating Mo Atlas with a top rope crossbody for the win. Decent match. And then Ken Broadway took on Lee Moriarty and Saeed Al-Sabah. Sabah pinned Broadway after 2 pop-up with a hop-up second rope blockbuster. And he will get his opportunity at the Pan-African World Dysphoria title. When, I don't know, but he will get a chance. Third show was UV Ultraviolent 60, the Death Hour. So these are all death matches. We had Homicide take on Effie, where Homicide won with a second rope cutter. Second match was Madman Pondo defeating Jeff Cannonball after he hit him with a stop sign and a clothesline. So he pretty much used the stop sign and clothesline with it. Main event was Slack defeating Oren Veet with a back arm bar of all things. This was a brutal, bloody, and fiery match, where Slack tried to do a fire elbow drop on Veet, hitting him, only to take off the elbow pad, hitting the cameraman with the flaming elbow pad, which was a wild spot, I must say. On to Jimmy Lloyd's Up All Night, starting in January 30th. We started off with Braden Lee defeating Eli Everfly, JJ Garrett, Lucas Riley, Lucky 13, and Matt Vandergriff. Pretty nice match to start the show. Vandergriff actually had a balcony flip, but Braden Lee pinned him, hitting a 630 senton. So that was a wild match, pretty much. Nolan Edward defeated Wheeler Yuta with a darting headbutt to win. Third match was Young, Dumb, and Broke of Charlie Tiger, Ellis Taylor, and Jordan Oliver. They defeated the Ugly Ducklings of Colby Carino, Lance Lude, and Rob Killjoy. Next up was Ken Broadway defeating Charles Mason with a super kick and a good match. And in the main event, it was Jimmy Lloyd defeating Yoya with a spike power driver to win. Yoya is pretty new to me, but he looked pretty good in his first match I've seen. On to No Peace Underground, Odium. Tag match of Adician and Pharaoh defeated KTB and Shane Mercer. In a death match, Matthew Justice defeated Oren Veet. Yep, Oren had 2 death matches, and he was not ready for this one, I must say. And then Atticus Kogar defeated Bam Sullivan. By this time, I went to bed, so these will be short recaps. On to Catalyst After Dark. We had Solo Darting defeat Billy Starks. Kerry Awful defeated Mike Swanson. Charlie Tiger and Ellis Taylor defeated Brandon Watts and Randy Summers. And for the Catalyst Championship, champion Colby Carino defeated Cheeseburger and Lucky 13. Yep, Cheeseburger even made an appearance during these 24 hours, so that was pretty cool. On to After Hours. Facade defeated Danny Moe, who we all know from Warrior Wrestling. Steve Scott defeated Kung Fu Janela in a 6-man match. Conan Lycan, Diego Hill, and Frankie Picard defeated Alpha Joe, Jeffrey John, and Solomon Tupu. Sorry about that. On to Freelance and Freelance Underground matches. August Matthews defeated Angel Escalera and Coda Hernandez. Storm Grayson defeated Darius Luttrell. And in the main event there was Davey Bang defeating Jacob Dean and Trevor Outlaw. On to Glory Pro, where Kareem defeated Juicy Finau. For the Midwest Territory title match, champion Hakeem Zayn defeated the one called Manders. And for the Crown of Glory Championship, champion AJ Gray defeated Mike Outlaw. To Black Label Pro, Calvin Tankman defeated D Rogue. Boomer Hatfield defeated Rob Killjoy. Levi Everett defeated the one called Manders. And since Drake Something could not be there, they've had a very good professional wrestler defeat Rahit Raju in a non-title match, of course. On to Camp Leapfrog Cybernetico, where they held a Tornillo Cybernetical 18-man elimination match, where the best campers of Abs, Abby Jane, Boomer Hatfield, Erica Lee, Jay Lyon, Midas Black, Molly McCoy, Still Life with Apricots and Pears, and the Boar defeated a very good professional wrestling team, a very good professional wrestler, Blank, CC Boost, Dan Champion, Killian McMurphy, Masha Slamovich, Matt Morris, Matt Mikowski, and Travis Huckabee. Yeah. I don't know if I want to see that or not. On to Effie's Big Gay Block, where was Jarrett Evans defeating Chris Valentine. Ashton Starr defeated Dylan McQueen. Dark Sheik defeated Devin Monroe. In a tag match, Adinson and Farrell defeated Ariel Speedwagon of Joshua Warva and Xavier Faraday. AC Perry, Ace Perry. Where's that? Oh, here we go. MV Young defeated Ace Perry and Still Life with Apricots and Pears. And Billy Dixon defeated Effie. Finally, around 11 a.m. Central Time on the 30th, we had Alley Cat's Red Hot Girl block, where Ziggy Hyam defeated Brooke Valentine. Howard defeated Kaya McKenna. Lady Frost defeated Molly McCoy. Faye Jackson defeated Erica Lee with a package drop to win. By this time I finally woke up to start watching this again. And then the main event was Willow Nightingale defeated Alley Cat with a gut-wrench powerbomb. Sorry, I'm cold and freezing right now, so excuse me for my stumbles. On to the Iron Man Challenge. They started with a bonus Nate Webb scramble match of Eli Knight defeating Chris Blades, Midas Creed, Riley Rhodes, and Robert Martyr. Then for the main event, it was to be Jordan Oliver, who was Synergy champion, versus Tony Dumpin. They were only supposed to go an hour, and so it started out very technical for the first 40 minutes, and then turned into a normal Oliver and Dumpin match with an end in a 3-3 draw. But someone came out and they didn't win at the end, so they went another hour. So yes, Jordan Oliver and Tony Deppen wrestled for 2 hours. I don't know about technically wrestling for 2 hours, but they did. And Oliver won 7 falls to 6. While Deppen was holding a crossface to end the match, so he could not tie it up. The second hour was more low blows, and it wasn't that great of a second hour. First hour was really good. Second hour, I don't know. They took off the GCW draft day hour and moved it to its own pay-per-view on March 6th. So they went 2 hours long. So congrats to Joe and Oliver for doing that. Then they went to 440's What We Want show, which was pretty much a knockoff of NWO Sold Out to begin, where they had El Drunko defeat Eddie Only, who's part of 440. Mance Warner took on the Ricky Shane Page Championship champion Gregory Iron to become new champion. So their 440 is 2-2 on this show so far. And then the main event was Atticus Cogar and Ricky Shane Page take on the Mortons of Kerry and Ricky Morton. Yep, Kerry's Ricky's son, and this was a pretty decent match. Only for Ricky Shane Page to roll up Ricky Morton holding the tights to win, which is kind of pathetic. At the end of the match, Blake Christian came out to challenge Ricky Shane Page for his title and put up his GCW career. So that turned out to be the main event of the whole. At the end of the night, I'll get to that when it comes. So then it was Violence and Suffering Rockstar Nights with Joe Gertner of ECW fame as ring announcer. So we had Ken Broadway defeating Gabriel Sky with a bridging German suplex. Daniel Garcia defeated Atticus Cogar in a Pure Rules match with a deep sharpshooter. And then Eric Redbeard defeated Homicide with a big claw slam. During the intermission at this time, they announced that they raised $50,549 at that time. So they had 1 hour left to go. So they reached their goal and exceeded it by the time the show even ended. And then the final show was The World on GCW Part 3. First match was Eli Everfly defeating J.J. Garrett with a top rope destroyer. This was a really good match between these two. Chris Dickinson defeated Juicy Finau with a huge Death Valley driver. Shane Mercer defeated Braden Lee with a second rope moonsault. That was an awesome move and a very good match. G. Raver defeated Cole Radrick with a top rope senton through a door. It was an okay match. And then Everett Connors pretty much put up the upset of the night, defeating Joey Janela with a crucifix pin after Janela landed his elbow drop. Main event of the night turned out to be Blake Christian versus Ricky Shane Page, GCW career versus GCW title. Of course, Ricky Shane Page hit a top rope slam, even though Blake had RSP tapping out with the STF, but the ref missed it, of course. So Ricky Shane Page retained, and Blake Christian GCW career is over. He did say his goodbyes at the end of the night. So what he started 24 hours and 15 minutes earlier, he ended the show saying goodbye to everyone. And from the looks of it, he is going to probably be on Impact since he was on their February 13th pay-per-view. So good luck to Blake on wherever he does sign. Nothing is official, but good luck to wherever he lands. The final total raised for all the performers was $54,008 by 966 backers, exceeding their goal of $40,000. So congrats to everyone who donated there. Since I am struggling talking, that's a wrap for me till next time, where I will try to recap all the other indie shows from last week, as well as this coming week's. Don't forget to look up those Twitch streams and YouTube channels for other wrestling content. Thank you for watching or listening. Hope you enjoyed the cut. Thank you all who came out to the Royal Rumble watch party. We had fun. And for the 20 who stuck around the whole time, greatly appreciate it. Keep safe, take care, be kind, everyone, and keep warm. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Charlie. So let's continue on with what we've been doing the last several weeks, our fictional Warrior Wrestling Tag Team Championship Tournament, and that is coming up in the Fantasy Booker. We are in the semifinals of the Warrior Wrestling Tag Team Championship Tournament, and this week's semifinal match is the Jack Street Boys, Cage and Hammerstone, taking on Sam Adonis and Ego Anthony with Frank the Clown. And, this in real life would be just a badass tag team match. I mean, Cage and Hammerstone, obviously big power guys. Cage also has the ability to do some high flying stuff. I personally think they'd make an amazing tag team. And Adonis and Ego, I mean, that tag team just screams Warrior Wrestling with those two guys. Probably the top two heels in Warrior since the beginning. And but I think ultimately in this one, especially with Frank the Clown at ringside, I'm sure he'd make his presence known because he always does. But in this one, I would have to give the edge to Adonis and Ego to move on to the finals of this tournament. And it would definitely be a great match between these guys. But like I said, with Frank at ringside and some of the underhanded stuff that Adonis and Ego Anthony are capable of, I think they would pull out the win over Brian Cage and Alexander Hammerstone. So coming up next week, it will be the finals of the Warrior Wrestling Tag Team Championship Tournament. I believe it's the finals coming up next week. Hold on a minute. Let me make sure before I say something or give something away that I shouldn't. Yes, next week it will be the finals of the Warrior Wrestling Tag Team Championship Tournament. It will be the Rascals, Dez and Wentz, taking on Sam Adonis and Ego Anthony with Frank the Clown in their corner. So, I mean, that match in the finals, that is Warrior Wrestling. I mean, you're not going to find four guys that just personify Warrior more than those four guys. So that in real life it would be a great match, and it's going to be a great one to just fantasy book. So make sure you check that out next week. So let's keep rolling right along into our final segment of the show this week, where I give kind of a not so popular opinion. And this week I'm going to be doing something a little different, but I think it's still going to be something that can be hotly debated, and I'm talking about the weekly hot take. So like I said, I'm doing something a little bit different this week. We've got 10 weeks until WrestleMania. So over the next 10 weeks, I am going to be counting down my top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time. The reason I'm doing this on the weekly hot take is because this is a subject that is very hotly debated by a lot of people. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of agreement, between, I mean, there's a handful of matches that people say, these are the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, but there's almost no agreement on which one is the greatest. So, I'm gonna go down my personal top 10 over the next 10 weeks leading into WrestleMania. And, again, it's my opinions. These are my top 10. I'm not saying this is the definitive top 10 greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. It's my top 10 greatest of all time. So we're starting off this week, number 10, from WrestleMania 29 in 2013, John Cena versus The Rock for the WWE Championship. And, John Cena at that time got a whole lot of hate from a lot of wrestling fans. And, The Rock is one throughout his career, has gotten a lot of hate as well. But this match this was huge. I mean, Cena and The Rock, arguably the two biggest stars to come out of WWE, and I just mean in general mainstream stars. And this was it was one of those generation versus generation things. Rock, of course, part of the Attitude Era, things like that. John Cena, at that time, the part of the current, John Cena had been the top guy in WWE for years at that point. John Cena spent more time at the top of WWE than anybody else in history, and it was exciting to see. It was a fantasy match. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That is a dream match, The Rock versus John Cena, and they did it 2 years in a row. But I picked this particular one because it was for the championship, so it was like the top of the top. And I think historically, I think this was a very important match in WrestleMania history, and it wasn't a bad match. I mean, people complain a lot about Cena and The Rock, for that matter, their in-ring work, and they're not. Neither one of them is what I would call smooth in the ring. The way they move, the way they execute their moves, especially if they're doing something a little more flashy, like Cena's leg drop off the top rope. It ain't the prettiest thing in the world, but it works. And ask yourself this when it comes to The Rock and John Cena, in regards to how good they are in the ring. How many times can you name that either one of them have botched a move? Because I really can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure it's happened. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're perfect, but how many times do you recall either Cena or The Rock botching a move, or hurting an opponent, or just generally screwing up in the ring? I can't think of any straight off the top of my head. Like I said, I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm sure it's happened somewhere across the years, but for the most part, both of them are very solid in-ring workers. Yes, they have their quote-unquote 5 moves of doom. They play their greatest hits because that's what people pay to see, But, so yeah, my number 10 greatest WrestleMania match of all time, The Rock versus John Cena for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 29 in 2013. So that's going to wrap things up for this week. And so yeah, coming up next week, we'll have results from NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, as they're calling it, as well as Impact No Surrender that is taking place this coming Saturday on February 13th. So two pay-per-views or specials or whatever you want to call them coming up this next weekend. So we'll have all the results and stuff coming out of those shows. So for right now, I am going to sign off. Once again, I want to thank everybody for watching, listening, and subscribing on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure to check out our website, catchhookshoot.wixsite.com/catchhookshoot. It's right at the top of your screen. So check that out. Scan this little Linktree code right here, or head to Linktree/catchhookshoot for links to everything that is Catchhookshoot, the web stores, all the podcasting apps, the YouTube channel, Twitch. If you were not able to join Charlie and I for our live Twitch stream for the Royal Rumble, it is up on Twitch, so head to twitch.tv/catchhookshoot if you want to watch that back and hear our takes on it, and queue up the this year's Royal Rumble on your WWE network, watch it along with me and Charlie. So head over there and check that out. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Hope everybody has a great week. Enjoy all of the great wrestling that is coming up this and every week, and I will talk to you guys soon.